Hello, everyone. My name's Yutta Jazz, and we are going to continue the Occult Saga podcast. I keep forgetting its name, although I record it weekly. So that's kind of funny. We're going to talk about how the good and the bad kind of exist and kind of don't exist at the same time, because in the spiritual community, you do hear that as a little bit of teaching slash advice for when you're going through very turbulent things or when something is occurring that might seem good or bad, but actually it's neither. And to some extent, it still kind of exists because there can be ill intent towards you and there can be like benevolent intent, right? It's very different when we are looking at how, let's say, people are treating us or ultimately like how maybe we treat certain situations, right? Or how we use our opportunities and etc. But when it comes to actual experiences in life, you can't necessarily call it a spade when it's a spade because you don't actually know if it's a spade. You just think you do, or you have a certain perception or a certain expectation, maybe a certain programming in your mind. And also, life, it's everything. It's not necessarily just good or bad or this or that. And that's a big lesson in life to get ahead in terms of anything. Business, love, education, in general, anything. Honestly, anything. So yeah, we might delve into some details or descriptions that may be unpleasant for certain people or triggering. So this is actually like my disclaimer at the beginning of the video. If you do not want to hear how certain bad experiences can be good, or vice versa, how certain good experiences cannot be for your highest good, right? Uh, you might want to click off and not watch this, or come back at a later date when you feel more prepared for the experience of figuring out what this is and how it might be applicable to you in your life. So I didn't really think about this too much. I am gonna riff as always. But the first thing that's kind of coming up is within life you don't really know if something's good or bad until it's, the end of it, or you look back, right? Or you actually have some type of knowledge or experience that could give you a deeper understanding of an ongoing situation, right? Excuse me. I thought I was gonna sneeze. I might still frickin' sneeze. I'm still going through some weird vibes and energy and other stuff. So excuse me if I need to like sneeze apparently. Um, but yeah, in life we usually look back and then we notice like, oh, that wasn't actually as good as I thought it was, or oh, that was actually amazing and I just didn't didn't feed into it that way. I took it maybe for granted, or I was in my feelings, or I was in my head, or I was making up this situation to be worse than it was because of external forces, because my friends were saying it's like this and that wasn't like that. I feel like, I guess an example would be relationships are really, really, yeah, I think relationships are kind of unanimous thing that we can give as an example here. Maybe your relationship was great, but your friends were saying it's horrible and you should leave the person, right? Or you should push for the next level, and you both were happy having whatever arrangement you were having, and it was respectful. No one was being, toxic or deceiving. Or maybe your parents were attacking a idea or a passion of yours, right? And it was a great passion and it was a great idea, but they made you think otherwise. When it goes a bit deeper than that in life, you really don't know if you losing someone or something was the worst or the best thing for you. The universe knows. One of the best examples I also have is people saying like, Rejection was God's protection, which honestly is a bigger fact than not. If you're experiencing repeated rejections on your path to either finding a perfect partner, or finding a perfect home, or finding a perfect job situation, or achieving your dreams, right? Maybe it's so real what you're wanting to do that, it takes effort. And so you need to be persistent with it and understand that until you get to the thing that's actually like the last destination of success, you're going to need to veer off away from things that are the first best thing and are actually just dead ends, right? Or situations that are going to get you stuck in something, or are going to use you and abuse you for whatever qualities you could be providing the situation. And we all know about those, possibilities, getting into a dead end job or a job description, sounding so good when you sign up for it, but then you you feel like, maybe I shouldn't, go past the interview stage. You still push for it because you're like, what do I know? I need a job. And you could have just waited like 2 weeks, trusted yourself, trusted the circumstance, maybe checked out the market a bit more, went through some more interviews, maybe talked to them in a sense of like, look, I thank you for giving me the opportunity and the offer, but I need to look at my choices. And then, depending on the response of the company, you could have actually dodged a bullet knowing that they are not a healthy company. They do not have good protocol, or they just don't even follow laws to begin with, but they're a giant that you couldn't actually ever sue or deal with those problems in an adequate way. You would actually just be stuck in a 2 to 5 year maybe contract slaving away for that company. When it comes to relationships, if you're having complete like repetition of being ghosted over and over again, it could be that you need to sort out something yourself before you get into a relationship, either from the point of how what do you expect of yourself, right? How do you view yourself? Do you actually appreciate and respect yourself and love yourself so you can attract that partner, or you can set the bar, right? Or are you kind of like, I'll take anyone because I've been so, alone and so afraid of commitment and just afraid of intimacy that honestly, like Johnny Boy over there is going to do. But your spiritual team, your ancestors, someone else, maybe the universe at large is like, no, we gotta fix that. You are actually better than you think. You just need to get over these fears that you have so we can actually bring someone else into your life. And other times it is kind of a case of like, you are not necessarily in the level you think you are. You need to get through a certain type of different relationship before you can realize maybe where you are being unhealthy and toxic, right? Before you can find your Prince Charming that has like millions of bucks in the freaking bank, or like a sorted home that you could take up as a proper partner that would actually be respectful and be in that household with them, taking up whatever responsibility or part of the role that you would need to instead of being a freeloader, right? Depending on the situation, it is kind of like what is for your highest good will occur, and you set the bar with not just how you treat the world, existence, your expectations, or not having those expectations, right? And yourself. Ultimately, how you treat yourself is such a big like determinator in whether you're going to have luck in any and all endeavors or not. And the universe is going to take you through the road that you need to go through to learn, to evolve, to become your best version without being a slacker about it, or without being avoidant on what you actually deserve in terms of the highest or the best good. Because we do have obviously the middle ground where people are kind of just like cruising and flowing with life when it either gets stagnant or when things are working out, right? But there's also a lot of people that are either undermining themselves and putting themselves down to be less than and not deserving and very desperate when they could just, work on the confidence and the trust of not them just themselves, but the life they're living. And then the other side would be people that think that they're better than everyone else, and actually they're abusive, they are toxic, they don't care, they don't believe in order or law, regardless of their faith or understanding of, like, spirituality or the universe. They may be very much controlling and thinking that the narrative is about them being the success story that can then just basically use that as leverage over everyone, right? And you're not necessarily going to have that experience. Not always. Some people are set up for success in that way to then be knocked down and humbled and to experience the worst of the worst, and other people are being kept away from their best success so they can be pushed forward into it when they are solid for all of the movement that it will involve. So while you don't know if that job interview was maybe perfect for you or not, there's always a way how you can figure it out. And it is hard when you are out of luck or going through struggles and turbulence and other things to be like, you know what, I'm gonna trust myself, trust the narrative around me I see that's in between of the lines, right? That like weird vibe that maybe life is guiding you or the universe is sending you signs or something is speaking to you or you just have this like heart gut feeling of some sort. Maybe dreams are coming through, right? Saying like, just hold off, wait 2 weeks. And it's gonna be the most anxious 2 weeks of your life where you gotta settle yourself and be open to possibilities while looking after your own mental health or emotional well-being, right? To kind of cruise to that different outcome that is going to be for your highest good, and is going to be for the best interest of you. So, good or bad doesn't necessarily play a role as much here, in the same way that we would perceive it to be, right? We kind of only see things in front of us, so we rush ahead in this or that because we think one way or are just driven by certain emotions that we aren't looking towards and we are not tempering because of fear, doubt, lack, or expectation of this way, that way. It's a dog eat dog eat world, or this is how you win and this is what you need to do for it, and etc. And sometimes you also don't know how maybe someone leaving you was the best thing for you in your life. The only thing you feel is pain and betrayal and other bullshit and whatever. But let's say, fast forward whatever amount of time, which the universe and your soul and everything else is aware of already, you are having the best success of your life. You just needed to weather the storm, grieve it, let it go, and then say, like, maybe there's better things out there for me. Maybe I can handle my own self better, right? And I don't need these people. And you actually do make it through that difficult period of time. Those people would have actually not only have like kept you away from making that journey, but they would have actually also impacted the success of that journey when you got to the destination. I, if you would have had a good home, right? They would have wrecked your finances in getting it furnished, or in paying your utilities on time, or in getting pets that you wanted to live with you in that household, or they would have become a freeloader that also somehow conned you into signing a contract with them, right? So, was it actually such a loss in those people going away from your life, or was it not? You have to make your journey through life in a fumble state of blindness to actually grow and learn through these experiences instead of instantly being knocked down and saying, oh, this or that. That's also a big reason of how faith is really important and why it is such a big factor when you go through spirituality. It's not just about having blind faith about, this, that, or the other, but it's actually also knowing the trajectory you're on and the changes you're going through and the deeper reasons for them, whether they're good or bad, right? Maybe the person left you because of your personal, state, you being a bit selfish and lackluster and not tending to your own finances, and then it was affecting them negatively. As soon as you're going to jump back up to being a responsible, accountable individual, they will actually appear in your life again and be like, okay, we can be friends again. But if you kind of did it too much, right, on the stressful part of just using them or neglecting whatever relationship you had, keeping it one-sided, then you might just need to evolve through your own experience and find how to stand on your own 2 feet without a friend like that or a future different like relationship. Sometimes we are ignorant of the point that in life there's always going to be loss, death, and winnings from even those circumstances. And it's not necessarily that it's good or bad, it's literally life on this planet as a human being going through the cycles that we go. If, I'm this age, no matter how much I don't want to have it occur, there's a higher chance of my parents or grandparents passing over, and then that contributing to an experience of either a inheritance or some type of sibling family dynamic that starts occurring down the line and result to it, whether it's going to be positive or negative, either way it's going to be showing truth from which on people need to make their own choices and stand strong in whatever is the integrity or the core of it. And that is the whole purpose of the whole evolution scheme of the universe. Some things that we believe are good or bad aren't either. They're just the process of shifting, transforming, transmuting, and alchemizing certain attachments, certain feelings, or in general, kind of like releasing those attachments and purifying our own understanding of not just only who we are, but having the pink rose-colored glasses taken off when viewing other people, certain places, relationships, or even companies, right? Some great companies that seem like they're all for the labor of society and the common folk and the common man are actually just doing tax dodging in the background constantly, having it also as a media front to boost their reputation, right? Whereas another company that isn't succeeding as much could be actually supporting the community, but isn't having as much of a success with it. Now, some people will say that's good or bad, right? Others are just going to say it's business. And a third type of people are going to ask deeper questions, saying the validity of the process that's ongoing. In general, the universe is kind of like in a bit of a place of coming out of a deep shell of a certain way of processing and learning a deeper meaning within all of that instead of sitting at a baseline of like, this is the only good, this is the only bad, and this is how the world and existence works, and how we should process and all of that, blindly trusting it and accepting it and ignoring the reason of choice, decisions, matters, and free will that comes along with that because we do direct the world. It doesn't matter if you own a business, if you don't, how big or small you are. You could be the child of a household, the youngest child, right? And you drive the entire family's scheme of progression or abundance, or even just certain choices that actually bring in certain experiences. And it's not to undermine anyone or to stress them out as like, oh, you gotta, take things way more seriously or less seriously. It's more just giving perspective to the things that we really don't notice who is a major player or what their choices are creating or what good or bad experiences within life are happening that are leading to more truth, more understanding, but also to either a better or a worse living, right? A lot of people that are rich have everything on in the whole damn world they could ask for, don't actually have a single friend. They don't have a single aspect of love within their life. Everything is hollow, everything is empty, and every single item they own is a reminder of that hollowness, that emptiness, that meaningless existence of just doing what you do without purpose and then co-creating the hurt that they already are experiencing and operating from, right? You could also say that people who are not really experiencing the most lavish of lives, right, are having the best time of their life because they're realizing and understanding deep core truths. They're actually seeing the world for what it is. They're not bothered by big responsibilities or decisions that are going to be on the tabloids or media pages or whatever, right? They're actually moving forward with simple living that is way more meaningful, that actually connects them to the planet, to what they can do to change it, and how they can actually reach out to the community around them. And they don't have attention on them that is going to be jeopardizing or that is going to actually going like drive them into a sense of mental unrest or a sense of being disconnected. They will be always supported by their community and will always make ends meet, but also maybe even thrive, and support that aspect of thriving within, the group they're in or the connections that they have. Either way, the universe is always leading people to realize these truths on a deeper level, and they're harder to admit than they're obvious. Because on some level they can be obvious if you have your eyes open, as it said. And in other points in time, we might just be ignorant to the truth of it because of taking up whatever we could because we wanted to be the best in what we were learning, what we were studying, right? We wanted to be accepted by either society or get the best grades or other things. And lo and behold, a while later on, you realize you learned something that was benefiting a certain narrative or a certain company or a certain view of history that wasn't actually even historically accurate. There's a lot of that happening. It's going to keep happening, but how do you actually have people or beings or energy uh, be open to the process or open to the shifts and changes of these things instead of being attached to it being one way or the other, not knowingly creating the same issues that the narrative has basically pushed them into? And it's hard. It is hard to accept the point that, oh, well, maybe this horrible thing happened where I lost, my home, I lost my friend, I lost my pet, I lost everything in one go, and now I'm, going through the motions trying to feed myself and all the rest, right? How that situation can actually be beneficial or leading you to the best home you've ever had, less stress, less work, less lying people around you, less issues, right? Maybe more spiritual protection as well. And I'm just saying that for the whole pet thing with, they can sometimes stay around and be there for longer than they could have been if they were alive. So, yeah, other times it's kind of like okay, how do I start noticing it? And it kind of is an initiative for the universe to get even louder so you can see those details, integrate them, digest the information, and understand like, okay, this is how your world is working currently, or these are the parameters you're going by, and this is how, it's all coming about. One thing I heard really kind of stuck out. I've heard it plenty of times before, but recently it was just a really good comment coming from a person that had something happen with their wrists, and they've been a, streamer with a creative passion for a really long time. But they couldn't do it full time. They had a part-time job, or I mean a full-time job at a office or something. I don't freaking know where they worked, but they had a full-time job with a company, and they were like, I just really wish I could do this full time. How can I do this full time, you know? They got a wrist issue. They had to go to doctors. It got so bad they couldn't move, at all their hands and nothing else. And they had to have like a note of leave or whatever it would be called in their country. Um, and at first they were devastated and really worried because obviously they need the money, they need this and that, and they now still have doctor visits. But it quickly shifted to them understanding, like, wait a second, I've been asking about this so much that I didn't personalize the point of it enough and how I wanted it to occur, meaning like they understood, like, I told the universe I wanted this, but I wasn't specific on how I wanted it to happen, or I was willy-nilly in how I was wishing it to occur, which is a very common issue in life for all of us. We say, this is what I need, it with what I want, then it happens in the way we don't want it to happen because we weren't particular enough or of what we actually needed or wanted, right? Or how we really hoped for it to happen, that the universe just threw whatever was the nearest, the closest thing, or what was energetically matching them, right, with their subconscious programs, expectations, how the life that they're living is kind of bunched up and whatever, where they're attached by the hip by something and how they needed to detach from it. And like this was the computation of it, and they delivered. And that's how the universe works. Like, it doesn't care if you're asking for something good or bad. It doesn't necessarily see things that way. It does see things as either for your highest good or not. And it'll always still deliver something that is for your highest good, unless you really push for something else and you hold that energy like a rock within you, within your heart somewhere, which is basically forcing your own energy or narrative through that manifestation relationship that we all have. But if you don't do it, and you're not specific, you can come by some results that are very much not what you hoped for, not what you wished for, not how you wanted it to look. And it's most of the time how you want things to look and how they don't look or do look in the universe's eyes. To us, it's a whole experience, it's a whole freaking ride, but you gotta be conscious on the ride you're manifesting. And if you want it quick right now, that quickest road might not be the easiest one, but you need to then commit to it from the point of when you were already wishing for it and asking for it, or be specific, like, hey, I want this, but I don't want health issues, right? I don't want it to be turbulent. I don't want to lose this or that, whatever, right? And depending on how big your aspirations are, or how big what you are kind of living for is, because some people, you know, they need to go through more karma in their lives, and others don't. Others actually need to release it to achieve the greatest heights they have ever experienced in any of their lives. It's just, it depends on that difference, right? It'll be very much a different experience. And for this person, it was a case of like they needed to lose their whole entire career, have it gone through a health hiccup that was the only thing that was going to force them out of their comfort zone, out of the situation. And then as soon as they got detached, unlatched from the workplace and the things that were keeping that workplace in place, and once the whole doctor's visits thing worked out really well for them, with, everything else taken into account, maybe, they had enough savings or other things, they instantly got healthier to a point where they could go fully focused towards their aspiration of being their own, um, merch provider, their own crafter, their own streamer and entertainer, and they just needed to become more fleshed out in their ideas and put themselves out more, you know? And it is still going to be like a startup or starting up a business of any sort, but that's the beginning of any new adventure. You start from zero because you go through the pinnacles of what you already had, reaching that glass ceiling, and then you bust through however you bust through to begin anew. And it is going to feel, you know, like you're starting from ground zero. There's no way you're not going to experience that. Going for something, you know, you were hoping to become or hoping to do all of your life. So be careful what you wish for really comes into play here. Do it in the way that's actually healthy for you. Don't rush it too much. And if you are rushing it, just know that you'll be fine. You're probably making it into a way that's going to feel extreme, but it is about breathing through it and trusting your own understanding and your gut, and then taking it for what it is. Having that faith, having that trust within yourself, having that belief that, you know, everything's occurring for some reason or another. And let's say if you've manifested very much undesirable things through malintent or ill intent towards others, as well as being controlling on the results you desire, because there's many, many people like that as well on the, you know, on the planet. And you start having things not work out for you and you can't get out of Dodge, get humbled and accept the judgment that you are going through and what it's actually teaching you about yourself, and learn that you can actually become better for it. That it's not just there to curse you, that it is there to hone you into a better version of you, the best version of you, you know? That you do deserve what you're asking for, but maybe what you're asking for needs you to own up to your own flaws, to your own also talents, to your own capabilities, and to where you focus it, where you put forward that intention and energy, and why it's going this way or that way. Along the way of manifesting absolutely anything, we are going to learn through those detours what obstacles are leading us to the conclusion that we want, to the destination that we are desiring. And life is, you know, hopefully, I'm gonna say hopefully because everyone lives for a different amount, for a different reason and a different, you know, focus, I'll say. There is a case of like where we're going is going to take 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, right? In general, this whole life is an experience to be had up until we actually get to that point. And along the way is it's the journey. It's not those destinations. And it's, you know, the journey restarting over and over and over again, going forward to something that we want, but then that something that we want is going to be a big experience. It's going to be the next thing that is going to be a drawn out life with its own challenges and its own pros and its own cons, its own people, its own whatever. And we are constantly in one part of the journey investing different pennies for a different thing, right? As we're going towards it. So, what pennies are you investing for what reason? And are you really being clear about it? Are you really being mindful about how you're treating yourself as well as others? Are you believing in it or are you not believing it? Because the universe is creating what you are programming with it. What's in the balance, maybe your account balance, right? Karmically, what is destined by you or your ancestry or the higher forces of all, through before you being born to you being born, right? Like fate, destiny, and all those things, which we still kind of have an impact ourselves. We create it along the way through our lives, through our life as well. And we can get out of Dodge if we really want to. We can also really lock onto it, but suffocate the entire point of the journey and then maybe you would need to do it again because we ignored the experience that it was meant to provide. And maybe we're going to murky up absolutely anything and everything we have through the point of good, bad, this, that, and the other. So while good and bad kind of don't exist because human perception sees certain things as always only bad and other things as only good, which we literally are kind of trying to learn and detach from, and that's, when you feel life and you get humbled within yourself and you really see truth for what it is, looking back, maybe look some of us looking presently, maybe, adding up timelines and like the future that we want and where we are at and where we were and all the rest. There's also a case of life is really going to be your own ride, your own destination, but your own journey going there in the light of what it really is, honestly, without the good and the bad that we assign to it. Um, And beyond that, on an existential, macro, humongous, universal level, good and bad is seen as what is for your highest good, what is not for your highest good, what has malintent, malicious intent, right? And what has benevolent intent. And there can be like very light people that are full of themselves and in their ego and kind of just like stepping on everyone, thinking this and that. And there can be really dark people who are actually helping everyone out by being that dark person, that, common, what do you call it, denominator, right? By being that kind of crude hammer that is needed, as well as just being that for themselves, knowing that honestly that is where they're at, and they won't go out of their way to make things better or worse. They're just going to be honestly, truly who they are, how they are, and interact with the world around them in the same light, knowing that that is as best as they could do or can do, and they might even have a deep hope of like, I wish for this to not necessarily completely stampede people. Like, if you can get away from me and get better, and you just need to roll through the deep darkness with me and be your worst version, right? But you have company, then do that, like be that. It's fine. I'm not necessarily going to be like the best person for you, though, and that'll be very much apparent, and I'll be happy about my life as I live it. I like the drama, I like the pain, I like the hurt and the darkness, and I'll still show love or focus on an energy that is kind of for the highest good of all in a sense, right? Because we need everything to experience understanding and deep knowing. It can't just be like, oh, this is right and this is wrong. That's not how the grand scheme of things really work. Like that's never how it's worked. Obviously, I don't know all the details. Certain people like figure it out, others don't. I kind of, figuring it out as I go and I just share it. But ultimately, fate, universe, God, whoever you believe in, sees it better for us when, we're just living through our lives than we will. We'll probably only get it at a certain point that is gonna be way down the line, way down the line. But other times, it's also a case of like some people have a certain place where they're still evolving through all of this, right? And they have an ego attachment. It's not as simple as like, oh, I do want to be for, the highest good of everything, or I do want to help everything out, and etc. It's more a case of like, fuck this whole idea. I'm just going to do what I need to get ahead and to get my way because I want to be happy. I want to do what is right for me. I want to do what is right for what I believe is right, what my values are, not the integrity of it, not necessarily the morality of it. I just want what I want, right? And it's hard to understand from a human perspective along the way of how that is maybe unhealthy or toxic, and you can lose anything and everything that you love that way because you're becoming egoistical and self-entitled about what you believe life to be about or what happiness is truly when it's not that, you know. The whole elusive nature of how spirituality tries to explain happiness or prosperity or abundance is usually very much woo-woo to the common person that's just going to be on a mode of survival, me, or get what I need, or means to an end, or, this and that. And it is two extremes. It is two extremes. And there's people that are, regardless if they're either at the soul or at the just human incarnation or however they are, not necessarily abiding by the idea or the law of like, I gotta respect creation or the universe or just like life in general. There's certain things that you cannot shortcut through or skip through and expect no repercussion over, right? And the more you play that, the more you plague yourself, honestly, because we are all connected. It's okay to be in a dark place or to be of a understanding that is more survival based or maybe oppressive or destructive or whatever it is, right? Like we need a bunch of stuff everywhere. If it was all one-sided, life wouldn't have meaning or purpose, and we wouldn't actually get the answers we need that actually work for everyone all the time for eternity. We wouldn't have examples to go by. Different people wouldn't have the reason to be different and uniquely who they are, and for us to all be uniquely ourselves, right? But there is a limit to how far you can take that and still be okay, because if you have a opportunity to grow out of the dichotomy of good and bad, or to admit where you have actually fallen down into a pit of despair and wanting to harm everyone and demolish love, demolish light, demolish the naivety and the weakness of, what is success or support, then that'll be it. That'll be what's going to occur to you. That's going to be you snuffing yourself out, because ultimately we are kind of the same thing. It's just we're in different places in different parts, having different experiences, having to go through different things. And so judgment of good and bad doesn't really work that way. But if you are going against the idea of natural order, eternity, or love, or doing your best through all that you are where you are, then it's a tiptoe towards not only madness and despair, but it's a tiptoe towards inevitable pain and fear mongering, and then consuming yourself like a cancer. And so you're gonna probably extend that to other people as well, right? Sad thing for certain good people is going to be, or good, whatever, well-natured, I guess is a better word to use. People that have intentions that are either pure or are either, I think pure is the best description, because then we can take in, the intention of being um a person that's, going through the deep darkness of their own soul, or through the, highs, or just like figuring out how to stay positive and loving and whatever, like all of the different shades of people, right? The difference between all of that is going to be your choice, and those people might be choosing to try and support um, the person or the people drowning in toxicity. They're going to try and have them out of it and support them somehow, bring them out of it, not knowing that they are becoming like, attached to them and leashed and maybe drained and compromising their own well-being, slowly maybe even losing that purity and becoming those like hurt people that hurt people, maybe even going as far as like losing the freaking view of it or the plot of it, and they never really wanted to go there. Either way, in universal terms, that might still actually be the best thing for you. You might need to go there to come out stronger than ever, better than ever, and your most true self without the need to help others or attach the idealization of support towards that martyrdom or save them or other things, right? It's complex. It's very detailed. It's very complex, and it is ongoing. It is an ongoing lesson for all of us everywhere. It's just important to, I guess, keep the light on or keep taking the road you need when you need to take accountability or responsibility or understand that maybe something you're doing is not contributing to your highest good or something that was very undesirable and painful was for your highest good. That good and bad don't exist, but on a level they do, and the universe is separating those things into different levels that actually serve everyone, ultimately everyone. So everyone has a chance, everyone has a place, everyone has an opportunity, everyone has a story, everyone has their own right and free will to experience in creation, whether it is one way or the other. But there's always going to be a limit to how much it's going to be allowed that someone's going to self-sacrifice to a point of a detriment and maybe, really harming their life, themselves, their loved ones through that self-sacrifice or through that extreme open love that they have, right? Openness to positivity, to supporting others and all the rest, right? Which can be very, very unhealthy and detrimental. And the other side to where a person's going to be so damned and toxic and so abusive and just lost in the sauce of like deep darkness and despair that it's going to the universe might need to do something about it. And what it needs to do so everyone can be better off with that result, whatever it is. And it can be some really dark decisions. Um, really dark, really sad decisions. And at the end of the day, people how they view themselves can really, really call that into action as well. If you hate yourself, if you only hate on others, if you keep continuing that narrative, you might end up in a place where you don't want to, or worse, you might not be anywhere at all. And for the people that are constantly, not taking the responsibility of self-love in a different way, kind of just living for others, you might end up in the same place. There's no differentiation because to the extremity of that, both of them are unbalanced, unharmonious, and they do not serve the higher good of all. It's kind of like everything needs to be balanced and accounted for. And if it is, wormholes of people kind of, sorry, my PC just glitched and that was really fucking weird. Um, anyway, if it is going to be attachments and wormholes between those two types of people, it is going to be kind of like how do we siphon it out, or how did we just find a different way of it fitting? So there's going to be more consciousness. So there's going to be more understanding. So there's going to be more presence in their truth or who they really are or how this really works or what really life can be about. How do we kind of break out the same old narrative that's going on loop, that isn't really helpful at all? How do we evolve to maybe a new perspective of this or an evolution or movement forward or a progress of some sort, or just giving the damn people what they want, right? When they're asking for it and seeing like what will be the best situation where they learn, grow, and really expand on the deeper meaning of life and existence. Like how are they gonna evolve as a soul and become the creator that, they want to be, but also maybe the universe needs them to be. Because ultimately, we're all evolving to become amazing creators, that are in charge and accountable, not escaping from who we are, how we need to be, and the love that we embody. And the point of either being, absolute darkness or absolute like light. So yeah, well, at some points, your ancestors, your guides, the universe, God is gonna be like, no, that's not all right because you've already, played this game of using this individual or these energies or creating these detrimental contracts or constantly not coming through the the thick of it, not showing up for this like situation yourself, either maybe others, right? Or hey, it's your time, you need to get up and go. You need to take this role. You need to stand up and be that example that you've been learning how to become all your life. Or, hey, this is like where you need to do something uncomfortable to be happy, how you're asking to be happy. No one's gonna do this for you. Regardless of what the actions are in the grand scheme of things in the world that is unseen of spirit and other stuff, it is more complicated than just good and bad in what we see in life, and it is also still determined by the same notions of is it corresponding with growth? Is it not? And there can be trickery in the midst of that in the spiritual world at higher levels. The higher you go, the more evasive it can become. That's why we kind of incarnate, right? So we can focus on one life and be like, this is how it went. This is what contributed to it being that way. This is how it played out. But it's not as simple as that, and it kind of does go out of the scope of good and bad. But there's forces always looking after it. They're keeping tallies, they're investing, and they're pulling apart people towards the same direction, regardless of who you are, what you've chosen, where you went, or what you've lived through. Everyone's being pulled towards the same direction. It's just you're in a different place of your own journey figuring it out while someone else is looking over everything and being like, well, this is the tally. This is the account balance. This is how it's working. Um, we can't necessarily go past this truth of how it's come up. We gotta play by it. And it doesn't matter if you think it's bad or good, it needs to happen. So, yeah. Not the easiest of things to talk about, as is everything on this podcast, but I think considering everything I've learned so far, I think this is a good introduction to it because we will expand on this truth in other subjects, especially when we're going to get to manifestation and how your reality is a mirror or a reflection of your experience, which also is going to draw from simulation theory and other aspects and things. But we still need to get through certain topics of like souls and contracts and different souls and different center cores of like what vibe they are and what vibe and frequency are to begin with. Yeah, I think this is just like a very necessary step towards the conversations that we're going to have that are going to talk about like how do we manifest what is for our highest good? How do we avoid what is not for our highest good? How do we realize and understand um, who around us might be, specific different types of players and how to live our lives accordingly to unraveling that karma or to contributing to healthy, prosperous relationships that don't get abolished or destroyed, right? How do we find our own accountability and responsibility, but also lead others to that? How do we call a spade when it's a damn spade, and you gotta just be like, hey, that's a damn spade or that's a damn shovel or whatever. Um, we're gonna get into all of that when we get there. Long process, but this podcast is gonna delve into detail on spiritual terms to make it as clear cut as possible so people can navigate energy because life and everything else, physicality, whatever, is ultimately energy, and we can tap into it through our consciousness, through our understanding, through our experience. And yeah, hopefully this clears up some things for some people. I think it might have also confused some people more so than given answers before, right? Um, just know that if you've lost some things and you're still hung up on it about it, let it go. The point of why you lost it was either you were too attached to it to begin with, and you should only be attached to yourself, and even then, attachment isn't needed. It's kind of like trying to hold on to things for dear life, right? And it's better to let go and experience and be in flow instead of that. And some of those things might have actually not even been good for you to begin with. And that was the lesson all along is those things were not good for you. Just because you love something doesn't mean it's there to serve you. And just because something looks nice, seems nice, doesn't mean it is nice. It might just seem and look that way. Where you are is where you exactly need to be. Everything is working out for your highest good at all times, and you're just learning your way through it, how to think about it, think about yourself, and how to support yourself and navigate that whole situation. And yes, you might still be doing things that are holding you back from that, right? Or counterintuitive. There might be people misleading you around you, and you can say like those things are not for your highest good or are undesirable compared to the things that you do want and desire. But it is about carefully framing all of this and seeking understanding rather than just being judgmental and saying it is this way, da 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 da, right? Life is teaching us through all of these pleasant and unpleasant experiences, and all of us are meant to get our way. We're just all in different places for it, so doing different things. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much. Sorry if this triggered anyone. Not my intent, but sometimes you gotta talk about triggering things people don't wanna talk about. And sometimes it's just really good and healthy. Yet again, if you've never read the disclaimer on my videos, I cannot remember for the life of me what I said there, but none of these episodes or my podcast in general or anything I create should undermine or deter you from your own understanding of the world, life, or how you feel or what you've experienced. This is just another account of how life can be viewed or perceived or experienced, and it's just an account of sharing that could, be beneficial slash could just be food for thought, could just be something you bounce your ideas from. And if not, this is just entertainment. This is literally just for entertainment, and you don't need to take it up if it doesn't feel right or if it's too much. You can come back later and see if it helps you, and if it doesn't, you don't need to look at anything that makes you mad or angry or feed into it or let that energy, like boil up in you and be like, ah, blah, blah, blah. It's just, if it's not fun, it's not fun. It's fine. So, yeah. Check the disclaimer. I think it says it way better than I rambled on, but I'll see you next time. Thank you for viewing this and spending your time with me. And if you want to, see more of me, I have a gaming YouTube as well as a Twitch and Etsy and other things down in the link tree below. And yeah, I really appreciate all of your support. And yeah, see you next time. Wishing you the very, very best wherever you are, whatever you're going through.